Today I'm going to make mustard marinated flank steak. So I'm really excited to try this. First thing you'll need is 2 pounds of skirt steak. So my butcher only, I asked him for 2 pounds and he kind of just blinked at me and said, here's 1 pound and here's another. So there you go, you have your steak. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So you have the steak and we're gonna score it before we put it in a 13x9 container, whatever's big enough for you to be able to store it in the fridge. That's what's gonna be best. But this kind of looks a little scored, but I'm gonna just show you. It's just literally kind of making some light knife marks, not cutting all the way through the meat, but just kind of penetrating it, and that will help the marinade stay in there. So I kind of just gonna do a cross function here. And that way that'll be kind of cool whenever you get it on the grill and it'll look real pretty. So we're gonna use our pan over here. Got all my stuff out. Don't forget to score the back. But yeah, this will be pretty easy to do. Like I said, just kind of cross score. That bad boy's done. Then cross score here. And so the next thing we're going to do is make the marinade, which I tried to have all my implements out here and I forgot the whisk. So forget me, but we'll have to get a whisk, and then I feel like I'm forgetting something else, but I'll remember it. So you're going to start with a good white wine. I don't really think it's a good white wine. I just kind of did the cheapest one. But I'm not picky about white wine. It smells good to me. I'm just flubbing around here. I'm going to get 1/3 cup of wine. So all these measurements are going to be 1/3 cup. So that makes it easy. I just use the same dish. So 1/3 cup of wine. 1/3 cup of olive oil. Like I said, this is for 2 pounds, so it may seem like a lot of liquid, but I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Okay. And then you get the bougie mustard. It smells really good. Okay. So I'm saving myself on having to do all these dishes, so that's the plus. So then there's 1/3 cup of the mustard. Now we're gonna get to my favorite part, which is the chopping, because I like to think that I'm fancy. So it calls for 1/3 shallot, which is basically 2 shallots, but I always find that confusing because inside the shallot there's pretty much 2 kind of bulbs. So I'm like, that's 1 shallot or 2. Kind of peel the exterior skin off. I hate that like real kind of fibrous material on the very top of the skin. So just peel that. Just throw that away. And so kind of just trim the ugly pieces off. And then I'll always kind of go down with my knife. I'll cut lengthwise. And then for like a dice that I'm going to do like this, I'll just kind of do a rough chop and then I go and do a fine dice, because that's why I don't do like the fancy chef, you know, cut in then down, because honestly, like, this isn't a thing for presentation, it's literally just a thing for flavor. So why bother doing all that? Okay, we got the first one in, and that's just going to go right into this lovely marinade mix. Once again, just kind of the first rough chop. Continue chopping away. All right. Okay, so gonna put that in there. I don't have my fancy bench scrape. Honestly, I buy a lot of those utensils like a bench scrape, and then I end up using my knife, which kind of defeats the whole purpose, but I've just let people lead me astray to anything I can buy on Amazon to then have it in my kitchen, and then it never gets used. So for me, the knife's gonna be the best trick here. Pesky skin on the shallot. Get out of my house. All right, chop, chop, chopperoo. Alrighty. Okay, so then we're done with shallots. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the garlic, which, like I said, it's like a tablespoon. So you get into, it's about three cloves of garlic, and I just make a mess everywhere and get the skins all over the place. And I'm gonna get kind of two or three bigger pieces. So okay, so you've now got the mess on your board, so just be patient. But I'm going to do a smash and then peel. Once again, people have those tricks that have, you know, oh, you just put this in Tupperware and then you shake it like crazy and the skin comes off. Once again, why are we dirtying a Tupperware? That's just one more thing that I got to have to clean. And then also, it doesn't always work. So we'll go with Old Faithful. And I might be kind of gross, but I love the smell of garlic on my hands. So, and sometimes it's one of those that lasts a few days, but there's a trick that you can, you know, rub your hands on stainless steel, and that's actually kind of works for me. So if you don't like garlic, you don't have to put as much in here, but I'm a big fan of garlic with the meat. And once again, like I said, it's really a lot of meat, so I don't, you know, really depends on your preference. And so, you know, I will let you know, garlic does burn. I have a cut on my hand that I didn't bandage, but, you know, during quarantine, I thought I can do anything. I can have a cooking show. I can have, you know, my job, take care of my child, yada, yada, yada. I also thought that I could be a hairstylist, so I told my husband with these gorgeous locks that I could cut his curly hair, and I did, and I really didn't do a good job. So we had to shave it, and whenever I was cutting his hair, I nicked my finger on the blade. So just gonna rinse my hands real quick because that garlic's kind of sticky. But the next thing, last thing, is 2 tablespoons of tarragon. It smells pretty good. It's very fresh, herby. You can kind of go down the tarragon, like you'll do it, tear away from it. Don't really remember the fancy word for it, but that just helps it come off. That's how you do rosemary and thyme. You just swipe away. So I'm just gonna do the whole plant here. All right, so just get any long stems out because you may not be able to catch all of those whenever you're putting this on the grill. I mean, you may, but look, after all that, I got all these little cute nesting bowls and I only used the one, but that's pretty much a score in my book. This is probably about a tablespoon, so I'm gonna get a little bit more. Tear away the tarragon. Yeah, okay. Come on. It kind of has a licoricey smell like fennel, but like it doesn't taste like it at all. So I don't know how these plants get made, but once again, I had never heard of this before I watched the Barefoot Contessa, so don't feel bad if you don't know where it is. It's by the parsley and the rosemary, but you know. Okay. Use my makeshift bench scraper. Just get all that glorious tarragon. And then you just kind of whisk all this with the oil, wine, and the Dijon mustard. It will emulsify. So that kind of gives you that thick, rich marinade that this is going to sit in. So, you know. It smells really good, so that's good. All right. So, I'm done with that. We're done with the board. Just kind of put that out of my sight. And we're just going to pour this over the meat. I'm going to kind of do some on the bottom to soak it up. And literally, I mean, your hands are already nasty, so might as well just get in there and kind of give the meat a massage. Okay. I can kind of feel where I scored it, so I know that that's going to have all that flavor in there. And this is why it's good to have a bigger pan, because then it just kind of sits in there. I'm just going to do a quick wash. So, I forgot to get the plastic wrap out. And I hate plastic wrap. Never works. That's what I'm talking about. All right. So, I'm going to press it firm, seal it, make sure you have enough room in your fridge. Give it a good shake for good luck. And then you put it in there. You can do it for 2 hours or overnight. I'm doing 2 hours, so we will see you in 2 hours. All right, so now I'm going to make some crispy gold potatoes, Yukon Gold potatoes. I'm going to do about 1.5 pounds, a pound and a half, give or take. I'm just going to wash them, just, you know, get any remaining dirt off of them. They're pretty clean just because they came in a package already. But, get my pan. Just use a regular baking sheet with their, you can put foil, you can put this, whatever this is called, I don't even remember, for the pan not to stick. And then we're just gonna cut these potatoes and just place them on, I'm gonna probably, I make the decision whenever I look at the potatoes how I'm gonna cut them. They are a little bit on the bigger side for the mini potatoes, so I'm just cutting them in fourths. That way it doesn't take as long to cook and, you know, get you there faster. So like for example, you're gonna cut lengthwise and then in the middle to get you your fours. And I've got the oven preheating to 425, so that's, you know, somewhat a high temperature for potatoes, but that's to get them really crispy. You also want to be careful with these potatoes about crowding the pan. Depending on how you like your potatoes, if you want them really, really crispy, you don't want to crowd them because they will kind of get all the moisture kind of sweating next to each other, and then they won't be crispy. They'll just be kind of soft, but you know, depending on who you're cooking for, that may be, you know, a benefit. Okay, so just for the first round here, I'm going to kind of spread these out just to see how we're doing as far as space, because this is kind of a recipe that you can give or take a couple ingredients. I jacked that one up real good. But yeah, like if you wanted to just kind of eyeball it and do, you know, just a pound, half a pound. I was going to say also, some people will use pancetta for something like this. I'm just going to use bacon because my grocery store doesn't have pancetta. I didn't want to go to a fancy meat shop. And in some cases you can cook the bacon prior. I'm going to cook it with the potatoes. So I had a little extra bacon there. but I cut up a huge amount. And so like I said, I'm gonna check where we're at. Sometimes I tend to miss those bigger ones. But that one is the other half of that. So about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, a tablespoon of olive oil. I'm just gonna kind of guesstimate based on what I'm looking at here. And I'm just gonna kind of want to get them all measured. Soaked. And then just some coarse salt, kosher salt, kind of on the top there. And then I'm gonna take some garlic powder because I like flavor, so why not? And then some fresh cracked pepper. Okay. All right, we can move that out of the way. And then I'm going to just kind of separate the bacon. We're gonna mix it in here. It's gonna cook with the potatoes for about 45 minutes. That's a long time, but I would check it at 30 because like I said, everyone's potatoes will be different. It's not like a uniform cut. It's not a uniform, size that I'm using. I didn't use a ruler or anything. We're kind of just guesstimating here. I'm going to blend these together just with my hands and put them in the oven for about 45 minutes. I'll check on them probably at 30 and see, what do they look like, and that's where you can kind of make the recipe your own. And like I said, depending on how you want your potatoes, you can do, a little bit harder, a little bit softer. All right, so we're kind of just getting these incorporated, and then kind of want to spread out the bacon evenly so you don't have any like missed little pockets. You know what? I'm gonna cut the rest of this bacon. I thought I had too much, but I don't think that's possible. All right. So kind of in those empty little corners. The other good thing about having it on that high temperature is that the bacon is going to get real crispy, or kind of soggy depending on what stage it's at. But that grease is going to, the grease or the fat from the bacon will seep into these potatoes, and it makes them irresistible. Okay, I think that looks good. Give or take a few things there. Okay, so we're gonna wash up. Okay, and then like I said, these will go in the oven for 45 minutes. I just have to shake it one more time. Okay, so it's been a little over 2 hours, and we're gonna check on the flank steak. Because we're gonna cook it shortly, you do need to take it out 30 minutes ahead of time just to kind of get it to room temperature so you're not putting cold meat on a hot grill. So we're just gonna get it out of the fridge. Oh, it looks like it's pretty good. So it's been soaking in the fridge for, like I said, about 2.5 hours. I always forget something. Cut that. Okay. So just gonna take a look at it and just kind of, oh yeah, that looks good. Just kind of flipping it here. So like I said, because we scored the meat like that, there's definitely gonna be those little crevices and pockets that are picking up that, Dijon, tarragon, mustard wine mixture. And so in this process, we're gonna also just add salt and pepper. That's just a simple ingredient, but you don't put it in the marinade because you don't really want it to affect the taste of it at first. We're just gonna season before you put anything on the grill. Okay. Didn't really think about this as far as having my hands clean the entire time, but we're just gonna pick the cracked pepper, and then because I just flipped it. I kind of made double work for myself. Cracked pepper. Flip this bad boy over. There we go. All right, so we're gonna just have this sit here and be joyful and merry, and then we will come back in 30 minutes and add this to the grill. Okay, so it's been about 30 minutes. I'm gonna pull the potatoes out, check them, and then I forgot, I do wanna kind of mush them around just to kind of get an even coat on them. So. Right, careful. And there's a lot of grease in there and all the good flavor. Like I said, I'm gonna kind of just give them a quick toss so they don't get stuck. You can hear that bacon and oil just sizzling away. But they're nice and brown, and like I said, because they're a little bit smaller than maybe your average potato, I think that'll be fine. Going for 10 more minutes, 10, 15 more minutes. I think probably just 10, but like I said, we're gonna kind of get them all to where they're a little separated and then put them back in the oven. All right, so we're gonna give those about 10 minutes and then we'll be back. All right, it's now time to do my favorite part, which is grill. I am not one of those who has a charcoal or a gas grill yet, but I found that a cast iron pan, which my friends Caroline and Russ gave me this a long time ago for my housewarming party, and it actually, I didn't know how to use it, learned how to use it, and I pretty much, that's the only way that I cook steak is on a cast iron, not on the grill. Much better. So, have both of these on. The way that I know that it's going to be ready, it's just kind of an old cheap trick. I will just splash some water on it just to make sure that it is all good. So it's perfect. It's bubbling hot. Only disadvantage to having the two steaks there is that this is going to take a little bit. I'm just going to grab one of my trusty knives here. I'm going to have to do this in a couple of sections. I won't bore you with those details, but I didn't think this part out. I do want to brush it with just a little bit of olive oil, and that's to try and prevent it from sticking, but it's going to be super, super hot, so it might splash back a little bit, so just be aware that that can happen. All right, so we got it oiled up. Let's put the first bad boy on there. It's gonna be exciting. Here we go. All right, and then put the second piece. So that's the sound you want to hear. And you're going to do about 4 to 5 minutes per side for a kind of medium rare. So that's what we're going to do. We'll come back, flip them so you can kind of see how the grill marks are looking, and we'll go from there. All right, looks nice and crispy here. So we're going to do the flip. Whenever I pull the steak up, I'll just put some more oil on it. Another 5 minutes. All right, 5 minutes is up. First thing I'm going to do is turn the heat off and transfer these to cutting board. Most important thing you do with meat, let it rest. So we'll let it rest for about 10 minutes, put it under foil, and in 10 minutes, it'll be time to dig in. So I just try and seal it all the way. So it retains all of its juice. All right, and we're gonna take the potatoes out too. Look how delicious, nice and charred. So no harm in letting these rest as well. So. All right, and then we'll let it rest for 10 minutes, and then, like I said, ready to serve. All right, now it's my favorite time. It's put all the food together on the platters, and then we eat. So we have our roasted potatoes. Kind of just let sit there, have a good time. Just gonna put some salt on top of it, and then we're gonna transfer it to my handy dandy pie plate. I don't really make that many pies, so I find excuses to just, use it as a bowl. Why not? Who's it hurting? Perfect. They've got that crunchy exterior, but then it's got really kind of that softness. This pan is still hot. All right. Now the moment you've been waiting for, we are going to just put the steak on a platter. I've got some leftover tarragon. If you want to be real fancy, oh, juice is dripping, juice is dripping. Here we go. If you want to be real fancy, you can put the tarragon on top just to let people know what's in it. I'm literally just transferring it here. It's still nice and warm. That's the great thing about meat, is that you can serve it at room temperature almost, and it's great. I don't like when people put a bunch of whatever's in it on there. That's all you need. So there's the mustard marinated flank steak, and then these are just some English potatoes that have a little bit of bacon in them, some garlic powder, all for a perfect Monday night meal in quarantine. I hope you enjoy it.